Hello, everybody. This is Shannon Olson. Thank you all for attending and being with us today. I know it can be a challenge at times to carve out the space and the time, and at times webinars are the things that can first drop off our priority list. So thank you for being here. We have a great group of you guys together. It's really exciting. We have about 50 different companies, 8 different time zones, and we're excited to be part of a conversation that includes such a diverse group of industry leaders. Over the next hour or so, you're going to be hearing Derek present a body of work that in many ways is a result of our 20 years of experience working with leaders. Around 5 years ago, we began looking at what had certain organizations and leaders succeed. And then we also began to look at why were others struggling at times to keep pace and to really adapt to new ways of leading. So the outcome of that inquiry was what we now call our conscious leader model. And it's a model that lays out the 5 barriers to conscious leadership, as well as the new habits needed to succeed with today's unique challenges. So as Derek presents, please know I'm available via either the chat dropdown or the question dropdown in your main control panel. Given the amount of attendees today, I'll do my best to keep up with your questions. If I don't get to yours, please feel free to email me directly after the webinar. I'm now going to hand this over to Derek. So he is one of our senior level consultants. He has worked with leaders at all levels of the organization over the last 10 plus years. He is ICF certified, and more importantly, he's committed to upgrading the habits of leaders and creating workplaces that produce great results in a healthy and productive way. So we hope you gain some insights and find value in today's sessions, and enjoy.
Thank you, Shannon.
Derek, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here. I just got unmuted. Hi, I'm Derek Olson. Thank you very much, Shannon, for the introduction. Let me briefly say who we are. The Henley Leadership Group provides leadership training and coaching that develops people, generates innovation, and creates happy workplaces. We're a small firm, about 20 of us, and we're in the Seattle area, and we work internationally. So that's briefly about who we are. Please check out our website and learn more about us. You'll see Shannon and I both on our website. I'm going to start out today talking about why we need new ways of leading, why the old ways of leading aren't working as well as they used to in today's business environment. I'm going to share with you 5 key areas of leadership that the Henley Leadership Group has been paying attention to in our work with our business leaders. We'll examine how habits form and then identify some of the old habits that are getting in the way of us leading more productively now. And then finally, I'll introduce our 5 new habits for leaders that are transforming the way that teams and organizations work together. So let me first introduce to you our conscious leadership model. This slide gives you a preview of where we're going to be heading today. We'll be building this model piece by piece, and you'll get to see how it all comes together. Starting with the outermost ring, as a leader, you need to be able to lead others and lead yourself, and also be leading the future of your business and maybe even the future of your industry. To support that, we're going to offer you 5 new habits that we see our clients adopting to move them ahead in their organizations, in their industries, in their life. And then these 5 new habits are the ring of multicolored 5 pieces that you see. The inner gray ring are the old habits, or what we call the barriers, that are getting in the way to being a conscious leader. And what we call a conscious leader is a leader who is intentional, aware, awake, deliberate, thoughtful, a leader who's continuously growing and evolving. This is in contrast to the ways in which we often see ourselves being led, such as being on autopilot, always reacting or unchanging, leading the way you've always led, or imitating even how your boss did it. The reason why we need these new ways of leading are because a lot of our ways of working that we see today come from the Industrial Revolution. That may seem like ancient history, so I'll give you a quick history lesson. The Industrial Revolution was the transition to new manufacturing processes from about the late 1700s to early 1800s. This was when we transitioned from handcrafted methods to automation and mass production and processes powered by steam. This was the rise of the factory system, large business organizations. This was the era when the moguls were made, the titans of industry. Many elements of production and work were routinized, and there was a mindset that humans should work like machines, more or less like cogs in a wheel, and focused on a single task, and therefore managed to produce a certain number of units per hour. Now, this may seem, like I said, ancient history. This may seem like this was a long time ago. And a lot has changed since then, but many organizations and even entire industries are still struggling today to make the transition into the digital age. And most importantly, what we're seeing is a leadership mindset in which managers are expecting people to still perform like machines. And these are environments where productivity rules over people. So today we're living in a dynamic and revolutionary time. Everywhere we look, we're seeing evidence of great disruption. Previously stable systems and establishments are changing globally. Digital technology, deregulation, and new forms of competition are transforming entire industries, and at a pace that these industries have never seen change before. As technology is progressing faster and faster, it's changing more than just what we do and how we do it. Technology is actually changing how we think and what we believe. And we're now living and working in an area that's increasingly being called VUCA. It's an acronym, VUCA, meaning volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Our political processes are being challenged, corporations are being questioned, our education system needs to be reimagined, even the global climate is changing. With all this change around us, it's often said that adversity doesn't build character, it reveals character. And it's in times of difficulty that we have new opportunities to remake ourselves as leaders, to step up, face the challenges. The thinking and practices that have gotten us here are not going to take us into a brighter future. We must adapt. And today I'm going to show you 5 ways that we can. I'm going to start with what we call our 5 key areas of leadership. And we're going to focus on the habits of leaders in each of these 5 key areas. I'm going to show you 5 old habits in each of these 5 areas and 5 new habits in these areas. The first is where you place your attention. This means, are you focused on the urgent and the trivial, or are you focused on the big ideas, the vision, the mission, the values, the big picture? In the day-to-day, where do you have your attention? On the micro or on the macro? The second key area is the way that you work with others. Do you leave each and every person that you engage with in a better space because of your interaction? Do you see every single touch point as an opportunity to build trust and strengthen relationship? The third area, how you gather information. Is your mind wide open to potential new thoughts and ideas? Or have you come up with your success formula? Are you fixed? Do you think you've got it all figured out? Your relationship to organizational health. Are you paying equal attention to the health of the organization and to the health of the people who make it work? And the last area, the 5th area, what has you decide to take action? Are you acting from emerging and new information? Are you and your team innovating and iterating enough? Are you experimenting? Are you trying new things? Leaders can be more conscious, more intentional, and lead their businesses into the future by developing new habits in each of these 5 key areas. And also by being aware of the barriers in these 5 key areas caused by our old habits. In 2012, Charles Duhigg wrote a book called The Power of Habit. Why do we do what we do in life and in business? If you really want to understand habits more deeply, and learn how to change your habits and the habits of your organization, it's a good read. I recommend it. Let's first consider your own daily habits. So this morning, when you woke up, what was the first thing that you did? Was it getting in the shower? Was it grabbing some coffee, reading some news, checking email? And then what? How did you get ready for your day? You get dressed first, brush your teeth first. Which shoe do you put on which foot first? How do you get the family ready? What are all those little routines that happen every morning to start your day? How do you drive to work? What do you do when you first arrive at work? Again, is it more coffee? Is it checking in with people? Getting back to email? But again, what are the routines that you do each day as part of your daily routine? And then lunch. How do you do that? When you get back home again, what are the things you do when you first walk in the door? Is it a snack? Is it checking news again, checking email again? The closer you look at these behaviors throughout the day, you'll see more and more of how much of your daily routines are actually habits. Things you don't think about, you don't consciously choose, you just do them automatically. And our habits very much drive our beliefs. So go back to our daily routine. First thing every morning, some of us, like me, get ourselves going by drinking a cup of coffee. That's the habit. I certainly have a coffee habit. And my belief is that I need that coffee to get my day moving faster, wake myself up faster, get into action sooner, get moving. That causes me to behave in certain ways, like either stopping at Starbucks if it's been a morning that I've been too busy to make it at home, or getting the coffee maker turned on first thing in the morning. But my behaviors very much support that belief that I need that coffee right away. And then there's the impact. I believe I'm more alert, a bit more energized, more awake, and I'm getting more done more quickly. That then reinforces the habit again. So the cycle reinforces itself. Sorry for my dog barking in the background there. Habits are neither inherently good nor bad. I'm not making a statement here that we shouldn't have habits. It's impossible to not have habits. It's a way that our mind conserves energy so that we're not constantly having to make conscious decisions throughout the day. So habits aren't bad or wrong, and they're very useful in the short term. It's just that old habits are inadequate for the future of leading. So our work is to become aware of our habits and replace them, the old habits that don't serve us, with new habits that do serve us. And old habits can die hard, if you haven't learned that yet, and may not even die at all. But we can change our habits. And it all starts with knowing what our habits are. And it helps to recognize how our old habits may have served us in the past. Okay. I have an example for you. We've been working with BC Hydro. It's a hydroelectric utility company in Vancouver, British Columbia, for the past 15 years. And they have focused a great deal on creating a culture of safety. They began by helping linemen change their habits, the people who are actually dealing with the high voltage lines. Having safe routines up in that bucket can mean the difference between life and death. And in the beginning of the safety initiative, they had to challenge some of the old habits, beliefs, and behaviors that junior linemen had about challenging their more senior linemen. It was simply something you just didn't do. You didn't challenge authority. In a hazardous work environment, oftentimes a directive, top-down leadership style can actually provide the most clarity and safety in those situations. However, though, the senior guys did things the way that they did them, which meant that sometimes they didn't always follow the safety protocol. And then they lost a senior lineman to a senseless accident. It shouldn't have happened. It was terribly unfortunate, and it rocked the organization. BC Hydro then developed a program called the Courage to Intervene to help everyone build confidence, new behaviors, and new habits in calling out unsafe behavior, breaking that habit of not challenging authority. The impact of this is a safer workplace, and lives have been spared. Their CEO, Chris O'Reilly, considers the safety initiative one of the crown jewels of the organization's culture. They start every meeting with a safety moment, where exits and emergency procedures are pointed out so that everyone is clear. Our experience shows that there are 5 common habits that leaders developed when the pace of change was a bit slower than it is today. Markets were a bit more stable. The world was a bit less VUCA than it is today. These old habits may have worked well in the past, but they no longer serve us today, and they've become barriers to being a conscious leader. With these 5 barriers or old habits, I'm going to start assembling our conscious leader model that I showed you earlier. So as you listen along, consider how these habits have served you in the past. And also think about how they may be getting in your way today and getting in the way of where you want to go. So recall that first key area of leadership, which we call where you place your attention. In this area, our first barrier or old habit is called making the urgent most important. This is the short-term focus for short-term gain. In this space, leaders are heads down. They've got their attention on what's immediately in front of them. They're getting stuff done, but always rushing to meet a deadline. Again, that's not leading. That's being led by what's in front of you. It's reacting to fire drills and getting to the rest of it whenever you can. The impact of this can be no room for creativity or fresh perspectives that lead to transformation or new ideas, thinking outside the box, crowding out of solid decision-making or informed, intuitive sensibilities. Collaboration diminishes as we keep our heads down and our focus so short-term, and we're getting things done, but without the input of other people. We lose sight of the long-term strategy and vision, and our short-term actions are just delivering short-term results. This leads to a lack of personal fulfillment as your work is reduced to your never-ending task list rather than the more inspiring element of leadership. And when this happens, you may be wondering why you signed up for this. Why sign up for leadership when you're no longer leading and you're just being led by the next immediate urgent thing? In 2014, the Harvard Business Review reported a 14-year-long study by McKinsey, who showed that companies practicing long-term strategies, for them, the average revenue was 47% higher than for companies practicing more short-term practices. They also revealed that 61% of executives and directors say that they would cut discretionary spending to avoid risking an earnings miss. Most executives feel the balance between short-term accountability and long-term success has fallen out of whack. 65% in the study say that the short-term pressure they face has increased over the past 5 years. And I imagine it's increased more since then. In our next key area of the way in which you work with others, our second barrier or old habit is called exuding assuredness at all times. Success tends to build confidence, especially success over a long career. The success that may have gotten a leader into a high level of leadership, there may be a long track record of wins, successes, doing it right. Confidence can lead to a person feeling pretty sure of themselves. There's nothing wrong with this unless you stop learning and being open to things that you don't know or understand. The popular idea is that leaders should always know the answer. They should be the expert. But in our wired world of massive ongoing information, there's no possible way that you can be so sure about everything. Acting like you do might cause diminished trust with employees. They sense that you're covering up for something or don't feel that you're being straight with them. People become compliant instead of committed to your direction as a leader. Employees who won't admit when a mistake has been made or when they are wrong. We end up with a culture of being right at all costs. And we end up with employees not speaking up because they believe that new ideas won't be heard or listened to. And we end up with a culture of invulnerability and fear. We see fear in every culture that we work with, in every organization. CPP Inc., they published the Myers-Briggs Assessment and the Thomas Kilmann Conflict Mode Instrument. They commissioned a study on workplace conflict and found that in 2008, US employees spent an average of 2.8 hours per week dealing with conflict. 2.8 hours may not sound like a lot, but this adds up to approximately $359 billion in paid hours in our country, or the equivalent of 385 million working days dealing with conflict. And the primary causes of workplace conflict are seen as personality clashes and warring egos. That is the cost of ego and personality clash. Our third key area of leadership is how you gather information. And in this area, our third old habit or barrier is called recognizing only wisdom that emanates from the top of the organization. And we call it this, and the conscious beliefs or unconscious beliefs we have about authority and hierarchy can dictate how we receive input and ideas from a variety of sources and how we use them to improve our businesses. And those beliefs can be whether we have to believe the hierarchy, we have to believe the people at the top, they have to be right, or a natural distrust of people at the top. But still believing that they have the power. They hold the power. If you have a culture where all of the decisions are made top down, you're likely to be operating collectively from this habit. Lower level managers or employees don't offer their ideas or feedback because they tend to think those at the top know what they're doing or think they won't be listened to. When we believe that wisdom emanates from the top, we're disempowering the entrepreneurial instincts and the emerging talent in the rest of the organization. We're just reinforcing bureaucracy. Bold new ideas from employees, customers, and key stakeholders are rarely considered below the top floor of the C-suite. And if that's not true for your organization, you're on the right track. Every day, frontline employees see a slew of problems, opportunities, and solutions that their managers don't, just by being on the front line. And these employees have plenty of good ideas to save time, save money, make their jobs easier, and improve productivity, quality, and the customer experience. Dr. Alan Robinson, he's the author of The Idea-Driven Organization. He conducted research that showed 80% of an organization's improvement potential lies in bottom-up ideas. And also consider that most organizations are a pyramid. There's fewer people at the top. You have way more people lower down, way more ideas, way more thinking. Business history is replete with stories of lower level employees who couldn't get a receptive internal audience for their ideas and who then exited and then struck it big elsewhere. Examples such as Vogue magazine editor Anna Wintour, who was fired from her job as a fashion editor at Harper's Bazaar. The Microsoft co-founders, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, were both programmers at Honeywell, back when they made computers at the time. And then John Lasseter, the chief creative officer at Pixar Animation Studios, was originally fired from his job as an animator at the Walt Disney Company. And then after he succeeded with computer animated films at Pixar, Disney eventually bought Pixar for $7.4 billion. That was a costly firing of John Lasseter. Our fourth barrier is valuing the health of the company over the health of its people. And this is in the fourth key area of how you relate to organizational health. Jim Strangle is the former global marketing officer of Procter & Gamble, and he's the author of Grow, How Ideals Power Growth and Profit of the World's Greatest Companies. He found that companies driven to improve people's lives outperform the competition that lack this higher sense of purpose by 400%. And yet we still consistently see people today working longer hours than ever before and obliged to stay connected to work at all times. This is one of the big downsides of our devices. It's harder and harder to disconnect from work. At the C-suite level, most executives have chosen that the corporation be their top priority, and they've chosen to be available 24/7 if needed. They're accountable to the shareholders, accountable to the board, and they're compensated with this in mind. But however, for others in the organization, they may not have signed up for that demanding lifestyle and aren't compensated for it. As you know, we live in the digital era of constant availability. Work and leisure time are blurring together in what's called leisure time. And it's getting harder and harder to get away from work unless you get out of range of a cell tower. But we can't hold the health of the company above the health of its people. We have to learn how to hold both in balance and create organizational structures that can support this. Otherwise, we're going to end up with high turnover, loss of great talent to other companies who demonstrate quality of life work practices. We'll end up with employee dissatisfaction, resulting in lower productivity, lower engagement. You'll get excessive absenteeism. We'll end up with an insufficient bench of leaders for the future, people who don't want that 24/7 commitment to work and the demands that they perceive of senior leadership. And then and also family and career are considered mutually exclusive choices. Like we have to pick one over the other, family over career or career over family. In 2004, the Harvard Business Review reported that the cost of going to work sick, called presenteeism, in the United States was more than $150 billion per year, which was more costly than illness-related absenteeism or disability. So this means that on-the-job productivity loss resulting from depression, pain, illness was roughly 3 times greater than the absence-related productivity loss. So it's costing us more to show up at work unhealthy than to stay home. And in our 5th key area of leadership, how you decide and take action, our barrier, our old habit is being risk averse and opting to security first. Past successes or failures can lead to conservatism and risk aversion. This is especially true in highly regulated markets like energy, healthcare, and finance. We have a lot of experience in those 3 industries. Compliance and regulations often demand conservative action that can also lead to conservative thinking that dampens creativity and innovation. There are daunting demands by customers and laws that are requiring new ways of thinking, and being risk averse can hinder much needed change. Analysis paralysis and a belief that failure is not an option stifle innovation, experimentation, and growth. For example, do you remember going to rent videos from Blockbuster in 2000 when its revenue was $5 billion? The CEO, John Antioco, met with the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings. At that time, Netflix was 3 years old, just focused on movie rentals through the mail, and they had lost $57 million that year. So worried about failure, Hastings went to Blockbuster to pitch an alliance or even an outright sale of his company to Blockbuster. But skeptical about the viability of internet businesses as being overvalued and unproven, Blockbuster vetoed any deal with Netflix. Blockbuster saw Netflix as risky and unnecessary, to its success. It thought it had it figured out. And it took them 4 more years before they had their own online video rental site. But by then it was too late. Netflix had vaulted ahead, and 9 years later, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. By 2013, Netflix was a $4 billion company, and now still a pioneer of streaming video programs over the internet. In a market where customer ordering and supply chain were totally reconfigured by the internet, Blockbuster was done in by its conservativeness due to past success. So here again are the old habits in each of those 5 areas. Shannon, I'm going to turn this over to you again.
Hey, everybody, we're going to launch a quick poll. We would love to hear, just as we went through the 5 barriers, and soon we're going to get to those new habits. But for now, what we start with is, where do you see yourself now? Is there perhaps a barrier or an old habit that could be limiting your success? And if you can see the poll, please go ahead and click on one that makes the most sense, the one that's resonating to you the most. And we'll just give it about 30 seconds or so. We have quite a few people, so I want everyone to have an opportunity to chime in. And as I was listening, I was thinking, oh gosh, it's sort of a bleak picture as we set up these barriers. It sounds so sad. And what I want to assure you is, in our work with leaders, it's so important to really look at, in some ways, what's the cause? What's in the way of us truly stepping into what's needed next? And as I said at the beginning, these are the things that we see people stuck in, the outdated habits, the outdated ways of working, that until we can point at it and look at it and say, that is exactly what's in my way, it's hard to figure out how to move forward. So I appreciate you hanging in there with the first 20 minutes. And as I look at the progress from the poll that's coming in, it looks like a majority of us, and this is not a surprise to me, really the barrier or the habit is being consumed by the urgent and the immediate. And I've been chatting with quite a few of you about this one, that really, given the pace of life and the amount of information that's throwing at us, and really the demands that have increased over the last 20 years, this is by far, I think, one of the more challenging ones to overcome, because there's always the next emergent need. There's always the next thing that is calling our attention. It can all feel important at exactly the same time. So that this makes sense to me. It's actually close to 60% of us. And then the second one is this idea of needing to be confident and assured at work and exuding assuredness. And I think what Derek said exactly right is, historically, we need to have it together at work. We need to be right. We need to know the answers. We need to avoid failure. So we have learned how to put on a pretty strong persona, that we have it all figured out. And what we see is, in organizations that are more innovative, that are actually keeping pace with really what's needed, this isn't as relevant. There's more room to say I'm wrong. There's more room to fail. There's more room to be sloppy and kind of do, messy work at first to get to the big idea. So those are the two. Those are the top 2. And so thank you for participating. And we're going to now move into, I think, Derek, are we moving into sort of those new habits now that are needed? Yep. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'm going to mute myself again. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Shannon.
And thank you. And don't forget to share your screen again. There we go.
Thank you. So yeah, we're going to move now into our new 5 habits. What we recommend be the ways to upgrade the old habits, the old ways of working together. And again, starting in that first key area of where you place attention, where you place your attention, our new conscious habit is what we call integrated ideas. An organization's vision, mission, and values remind people of the larger picture of which they're a part. We know how fast people forget about the bigger picture in the day-to-day, especially when the company is undergoing massive changes in strategy, marketing, sales approaches, product lines, and so forth. In these times, it's important to help everyone remember what they are giving their time and energy to, and even their lives to. Leaders can help their teams to gather around these integrated ideals, the reasons for why we're doing what we're doing. Your ideals should inspire everybody on the team, everybody involved. Integrated ideals are essential for the leader, the team, and the organization. They define who the leader is and inform others where they are all going together. Some companies call this a purpose or a charter. That's fine. What we call it isn't as important as what it does. It helps employees every day make choices that are squarely in line with the ideals. When we stay connected to our vision, our mission, and values, actions arise from bold, compelling ideas. Solutions are future-oriented, informed by guiding ideals, and propel the business forward. I like to think of the captain at the helm of the ship. The captain is the person that can see where the ship is going, whereas everyone else only feels kind of the side-to-side movement of the ship, going this direction, then going that direction. The captain can see the journey, where the ship is going, how we're going to get there. One of our clients, Life Center Northwest, which is an organ and tissue procurement organization, has an integrated ideal of working together to save lives. Whether you're a visitor, a client, or an employee, this mission of theirs is at the forefront. When you walk into their reception area, the lobby is filled with quilts representing its donors. And its mission and vision are painted brightly and boldly on its walls. In our years of working with them, all conversations, choices, and changes lead them toward this ideal. During meetings, managers return to this ideal in the face of conflict and breakdown. And when pulled down into the not so fun details, they remember that as a team, they're working together to save lives. This ideal shapes the way they connect with the families of donors, their colleagues, and their employees. In the second key area of the way you work with others, our new conscious habit is what we call productive engagement. Leaders who can master productive ways of interacting with others will gain more respect than those who exude an always in command or I'm the one in charge attitude. The reason is they will be viewed as true partners in the mission rather than as remote oracles, people up in the ivory tower. Collaboration improves markedly when managers have consistently used positive and productive interactions with people at all levels and made them feel valued and smart. As a leader, always be aware and always be responsible for the impact of your words and that your actions have on other people. They're watching you closely as a leader. They're always watching what you do and what you say. So have the courage to open up, be vulnerable, admit your mistakes and your shortcomings. When leaders interact in ways that build commitment and trust, they inspire action and they create an empowered work environment. Some of my favorite quotes from Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO. He says, the energy you create around you is perhaps going to be the most important attribute. In the long run, EQ, emotional intelligence, trumps IQ. Without being a source of energy for others, very little can be accomplished. And this is coming from a technical guy. So how can managers who want to engage more productively begin? We suggest 3 steps. Seek ongoing feedback from all directions. Cultivate the skill to address conflict head on. Find ways to stretch yourself into those areas of discomfort to deal with conflict, and be accountable for your impact, and then make necessary changes. In our next key area of how you gather information, the habit here, the conscious habit, is intellectual agility. Company leaders who can master what we call intellectual agility can expand what they think is possible. They remain open to new ideas no matter where they come from, whether they come from inside the company or from outside, whether they come from the front lines, customers, suppliers, the board. Often the most important ideas that companies must act upon exist at the bottom or the middle of the organization, not at the top. Be open to new perspectives that challenge your beliefs, solicit feedback, and seek emerging possibilities from all levels of the organization. company named Brasilata, if I'm saying that correctly, in Brazil, is routinely named one of the most innovative companies in Brazil. They get 150 ideas per person per year and implement more than 90% of them. It's a great example. Another is Best Buy. They regularly offer rewards to store employees who contribute ideas that make an impact. Store managers can lower prices if a nearby competitor offers the same product for less. Managers take cashiers out for breakfast to ask them questions about customers' preferences, biggest complaints about the shopping experience. And the stores are laboratories for innovative ideas generated by employees. And information on both processes and failures are shared freely with other stores without fear of punishment. Our fourth key area, which is your relationship to organizational health, our conscious habit is vital fulfillment. This is a culture where employees use a full range of abilities, tapping into their intellectual, physical, and emotional, and even spiritual best. Executives who master vital fulfillment will feel they're being well used, as opposed to feeling used up and depleted. And so will the employees. Leaders who have a full life outside of work and who subjugate personal lives for the corporate good only during critical periods will be much more productive. And of course, if work-life balance matters, they're likely to last longer in the organization, live longer, and live healthier lives. Lots of studies are showing work-related stress and health impacts, physical health impacts. Senior leaders demonstrate commitment to quality of life inside and outside the organization. Again, it's the blending of the personal and professional lives. They're connected. And good people will stay. Joe Mello, he's the former Chief Operations Officer at DaVita, another longtime client of ours, had to become a master of creating clarity, focus, and capacity. So every Monday morning, he wrote on a Post-it note his 3 most important priorities for the week. He didn't keep a running list of dozens of priorities to get done on Monday. The simple task created focus for Joe and his direct reports that helped them develop the crucial leadership habit of vitality. The people who worked for Joe were clear about their own priorities because Joe encouraged the same practice that worked so well for him. He and his team had much more productive days because they regularly identified the important few critical process improvements to make. In the time that Joe worked as the COO, DaVita tripled in size to become a global leader in healthcare. Joe's habits allowed him to become a far more effective COO, citizen, and a friend to people outside the company. And with the company's executives, we often facilitate an exercise we call the best use of me, in which each leader must write a Post-it for every task and activity that they can recall doing in an average week. The Post-it notes are then categorized under the leader's top 3 to 5 priorities. Executives are then told that they must delegate, stop, or change all the tasks or activities on the Post-its that don't fit into those top priorities. The end result is often attending fewer meetings and having more time for innovation and heads up thinking as opposed to heads down. And our 5th new habit, we call innovative action. This is in the 5th key area of how you decide and take action. Building competence in innovative action not only helps executives reduce bureaucracy and hesitation, it works to create an environment of curiosity and experimentation, of trying new ideas and abandoning those that aren't working after reasonable effort. The executive who can balance a conservative approach with innovative action is much better able to get people fully engaged and aligned on goals. Leaders with the ability to balance conservatism with innovative action give employees license to do the same thing, to make rapid decisions without being afraid of missteps. The result is that decisions and actions happen much faster, creating strong collective momentum. Employees will bring their best thinking forward, and the culture encourages rapid experimentation, iteration, and learning. Fail fast. Here are our friends at Puget Sound Energy, one of our long-term clients again. The Senior Vice President of PSC of Customer Experience believed that the team needed to come up with an answer quickly and creatively. He decided that they didn't need an extensive survey of employees or deep reviews of other utility recognition programs or a big consulting team to analyze all the data. That would have taken months, so instead he convened a 2-day meeting of 20 people to form a task force. Facilitated in partnership with Toronto's Experience Point, they started by asking themselves this question: how might we help employees feel recognized for doing meaningful work that adds value to the organization? They discussed possibilities, and to test their assumptions, they conducted nearly 30 interviews of customers, faculty, family members, and employees from a wide range of levels in the organization in just 4 hours. These interviewees surfaced widely divergent points of view, which helped the recognition team gain new insights. Then they came back, shared their findings, and tested some new recognition programs in very small experiments. They ran these experiments quickly and on a minimal budget, not a huge investment. The team designed one experiment to test whether making it easy for employees to commend good work would increase such appreciation. Several members created a recognition box with items that could be offered as a way of saying thanks for a job being well done. The recognition box contained cards, balloons, flowers, coffee cards, stickers, and so forth. And if people wanted to honor someone by giving him or her something from the box, all they do was write down who the item was going to and what the person was being recognized for. The recognition box was a hit, and nearly all the items were distributed in 2 weeks. Big contrast to an enterprise-wide recognition program that would have been big and clunky and much less effective. Shannon, back to you. Let's do another poll.
Hello, everybody, I'm back. So now we want to look at, we're beginning to sort of turn the corner here. We looked at what was in the way. We look at this idea of conscious leadership, and now we're looking at, what habit can you see that perhaps if you focused on it within the next 30 days could begin to make a difference? And we understand that you may not know exactly how to get there. There's been a handful of questions to me, like, how do I do this? What specifically do I need to do in this area or this area? For this webinar, it's really about expanding your awareness and the distinction of it. So now you have the distinctions of the barriers. You have this distinction called habits. And it is, putting the energy toward what can I begin to look at and get curious about over the next 30 days. So I'll leave it open another minute or so. I've appreciated the questions that have come in. I've appreciated the engagement from you during the last half hour, or actually close to an hour now. And I've done my best to respond to all publicly so you can see. I think some were private conversations. There's also a couple handouts available. If you can't access them, please know that we'll send them after the session as well, so you'll have access to them. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share the results. I'm gonna close the poll. So, it's fascinating. So it's a pretty well-rounded, you guys are a very balanced group of people. You all are gonna just focus on all aspects of it. Interesting. So there isn't a clear quote unquote winner out of this. What I like is that it's resonating and that there's something that's working for everybody as far as these new habits go. Derek, are you going to speak in a minute of sort of what else they can be doing over the next, after this to sort of keep these alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
All right,
yeah.
great. So I'm going to go ahead and, given that we're down to 10 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and close this out and let you get back to sort of next steps here. for
All
them.
right.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Shannon. And thanks everyone for participating in our little polls. So again, our 5 new habits: integrated ideals, productive engagement, intellectual agility, vital fulfillment, and innovative action. There again is the whole model. You can see how we put it all together. We do see these habits being adapted by leaders and moving them ahead in their organizations. If you can develop in these areas, you will expand your capacity for leading others and leading yourself and leading your business into the future. Your new habits will lead to new outcomes. So let's get to Shannon, your point about what do we actually do? What can we be doing differently? So I'm going off script here, so bear with me. One of the big habits we encourage our clients to take is to carve out time. That simple step of just blocking out time on your calendar and protecting it, not letting anyone take it away from you. That is your time to stay focused on what are the priorities. What is the big picture? What are those integrated ideals? What is your development as a leader? What are you doing to strengthen that productive engagement? What are your new practices and how are you doing it? How are you measuring it? And how are you tracking it? But that practice of just designating some time for you as a leader. This is your time to strengthen your leadership ability is just priceless and valuable.
Can I chime in for a second
Yeah,
and just
please.
add
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
I will know that this is something we task our clients with, and it's also one of the more challenging things. It can sound so simple to say, I'm going to block out 1 hour a week to just get present to really what's needed. And even if you go back to the example of Joe Mello from DaVita, it was just a simple post-it, 3 things I'm going to pay attention to this week. It's another great practice. But so guard it as if your life, it matters. It really is. It could be the first thing that drops off the calendar. It could be the first thing that we override. But you will be a better leader by holding aside that time. So, just look to see what muscle do you need to build to guard it and to protect it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to think of it as and this may be an old image, but of the mine shaft with the support beams holding up the ceiling of the mine tunnels. Protect that time on the calendar. Do whatever you need to do to put that structure in place and hold it open for you, because that time really is invaluable. And then continuous feedback. That's build support your people around you that are supporting your development at all levels. People below you, your peers, people above you, but develop those relationships in a way that they know what you're working on. They know what you're paying attention to. They know what you're trying to do to better yourself as a leader. You trust their opinions, you trust their perspectives, and they're open with you. They give you the real-time feedback. How'd you do in that meeting? How'd you do in that presentation? How are you doing today? They're your partners. They're your allies. Create as many of those circles around you as possible. I think those are the 2 top techniques that I think can do the greatest good in developing these areas. And it is hard work. Here's some more general tips. And leadership development isn't just a one-time shot. It's a lifelong journey to develop yourself as a leader. It's not something that you just read a book, sign up for a class, and you're done. The hard work and the real development takes place in the day-to-day workplace, where you're continually stretching yourself outside your comfort zone. You're continuously pushing yourself, challenging yourself, and being that conscious leader that we described today. And pay attention to those 5 key areas. That if you may find that you'll either recognize other habits that I haven't spoken about today. You may even recognize new habits that might serve you better if you're paying attention to those 5 key areas. Where you're placing your attention, what are you focused on? Are you focused on problems or are you focused on outcomes? How are you working with others? How are you gathering information? How you relate to the organizational health, and how you decide and take action. And repeat, repeat, repeat. It takes persistence, it takes commitment, and don't give up.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of just even checking in with yourselves around those 5 key areas, asking yourself those questions on a weekly basis, keeping them in front of you. I think that alone will have you be paying greater attention. That are you engaging in maybe an outdated habit or an old way of working that you haven't thoughtfully looked at, or are you stepping toward really what's needed now? So I think that's a really great simple practice as well, is just keep those 5 areas in front of you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek.
You're welcome. Thank you all for listening and for participating today.
So, so a few things just as we wrap up here. We are going to be launching a training series around this model, I think end of August or beginning of September. I can't recall off the top of my head right now. It's going to be a 6-session series. You're going to get distinct tools, frameworks, practices for each aspect of our model. It's a really great program. And as I said, you're going to have, there'll be homework, there'll be community groups, there'll be resources, and you'll have actually tools to go practice with. So because, and you are going to get a sort of an early bird rate that will be in your inbox, I think in the next couple of days, that you'll be able to get, because you attended this, you get access to it at a reduced registration rate. So just keep your eyes open for that. And please feel free, we're available. I know many of you have worked with us. You know that we're a great resource. And for those of you that this may be your first exposure to us, just know that you can reach out via email or through our website if there's any way that we can support you. Those handouts will be heading your way. We'll send you the information for the training series that's launching in a few months. And then as well, you'll be receiving a recording of this and a short survey. So a bunch of good stuff heading your way. Deeply appreciate the attendance and the participation. And I acknowledge you for finding time in the middle or the end of your day to make this work. And the idea of really upgrading our leadership habits is no small effort. And I promise you, and I think what we're always so grateful for is that you alone, the ripple effect from you being willing to perhaps step out of old ways of working and step into new ways of working, will cause a huge change within your teams and your organization. So we encourage you to keep the work up, to keep building the awareness. And that's it for us today. So thank you so, so much. We wish you a really great day, and take care of yourselves, and we look forward to being with you again. Thank you very much.